So that means there might be less money out there, less money being spent, less money being out there lowers inflation. And that's good for mortgage rates.
Hey y'all, Katie here with Team EvoAZ at eXp Realty. We are so excited for season 4 of R.E.A.L with Matt and Katie, and we have so much juicy real estate goodness lined up for you for this season. Thank you so much for following us and for listening to our show. Remember, we are based in the Phoenix, Arizona area, so if you're interested in buying a home, selling a home, or you just have general real estate questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are a valley-wide team. Our handle is at Team EvoAZ on all of your favorite social media platforms. Enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, it's Katie and
Matt.
And we are that real estate married couple talking a lot about real estate and a little bit about life. We are in the Phoenix, Arizona metro area, valley-wide, top to bottom, back to front. How about you, Ryan?
Same here. Well, I'm actually in all 50 states though, but I'm here in Arizona, and but we do focus, of course, in Arizona, the Phoenix metro area.
Yeah. So tell us, we've had some changes lately, haven't we?
Changes. Yes.
Yes, we have actually. So, of course, we'll start with my kind of interest rate update. You know, we've seen, as we discussed in previous podcasts, the steady increase in mortgage rates over the past 5 months. So we saw them, you know, kind of in the low 3s last year, and they're in the low 5s right now. And some good news is that we're starting to see a little bit of a ceiling. You know, we've seen it kind of hit this level of support that it hasn't broken through yet. So that's encouraging. And part of the reason that we're seeing that is that last week, you've probably seen in the news that the Fed decided to increase the funds rate another 0.5%. Mm-hmm. So again, you know, the funds rate are really what banks charge each other for overnight spending. It doesn't have a direct impact on mortgage rates. A lot of people read that and think mortgage rates jumped to 0.5%, but that's not the case. So that was actually positive for mortgage rates, because when that happens, it costs more for you know, people to borrow money. So that means there might be less money out there, less money being spent, less money being out there lowers inflation. And that's good for mortgage rates. So really, that's what we kind of look for, is inflation going down, which will give a you know, downward pressure for mortgage rates. So it was seen as a positive, and that's why we really do feel like hopefully we hit kind of a ceiling, and you know, we might kind of keep at these levels, and eventually towards the end of the year kind of see rates lower back down as inflation gets under control. So that's the goal. That's what the Fed's looking to do, and that's what we're expecting.
And as far as your new applications, I think in the last episode we had discussed your refinance applications had, you know, sort of gone down a little bit, or maybe, you know, not so many were coming in. Is that still the case? And how about purchase money?
Yes, yeah, they have noticed. Actually, I was reading a Mortgage Bankers Association. They did measure the level of refinances year over year, how much it's declined. It's down 85% right now. So it's a pretty significant decline, you know, so we're still getting clients, you know, because there's a lot of equity in homes, obviously. Yeah. And, you know, people want to pay off those credit card bills, maybe some student loans, car payments, and mortgage rates are still at, you know, historic lows. You know, you think in the 80s, they were in the 17%, and mortgage rates are still a lot lower than what you'll be paying maybe on a credit card. So there's still people out there who are consolidating, or maybe taking some cash out for some upgrades, but it has gone down quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to speak to the equities, I agree with that 100%. There's a ton of equity in our homes, and you know, the majority of homes in the Phoenix area here. I've had this cute little slide girl. It's been a minute, I think, since I've showed one, but this is from Armless. Of course, you know, Armless, they send us the report kind of like a month behind, right? Because that's the data that they have. So this is reporting in March 2022. And I thought it was kind of interesting because it shows a handful of, you know, metro areas across the country. And look at Phoenix. It's showing that Phoenix price increase is the most out of these 10 cities here. And you're looking at San Diego, LA, Vegas, Denver, Houston, Chicago, Washington, Boston. And I assume that one down at the bottom that got cut off is Miami. So thought that was pretty interesting. I know we're definitely feeling it. There's a lot of chatter out there about, oh my gosh, this is the most expensive I've seen, you know, houses reach in Phoenix. And it's blowing people's minds, really.
Yeah, no, I think that's the case. And, once again, I think everyone's mindset is pretty much, it's based upon their experience here in the last decade, and everyone got really, really comfortable. I think, we had it really good and we still have it great. It's just, you never know how much you had until it's gone.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the case. I think a lot of people were really banking on this crash and burn that, they knew was coming. And it's not the case. And I think that's just slowly dissipating. So they're kind of fighting their own little mental thing to say, this is the new reality. And I think that's exactly what it is. And when you really look at like what Kate just showed, we're not just the only ones that have spiked. You look at that and you had all these other cities that are seeing double digits in their appreciations and all this, but they were already at the levels that we are at, most of them.
Right.
So when people are moving over here from Chicago and New York and California, parts of Colorado and all these places like that, we still have a great deal. The difference too is our economy, our job openings, the future, the risk that's associated with going into a startup. If you're in your 30s and 40s and saying, hey, I want to do something that has a little bit, maybe more of a golden pot at the end of the rainbow. And I think that's what they're seeing here.
Our unemployment levels are super low in Arizona.
It's historically low. I think we're the lowest in the country right now.
I think we're the lowest we've ever been.
Yeah.
So
because there's so much positives going on right now, but what you really hear in the news is the negatives. That's what sells, obviously. So you'll see those headlines, because I've been getting a lot of questions from some of my clients about a recession. Like that's kind of a key word that people are hearing right now in the news. And historically, when the Fed does get really aggressive about raising interest rates, if you look at the history, it does sometimes a recession follows when there's aggressive rate hikes like we're going to be seeing this year. And really what a recession means is 2 quarters in a row of gross domestic product being a negative is really what it means. So gross domestic product is really, services and goods that are purchased and manufactured and purchased in the United States in a given quarter. So really what that just means is, right now inflation's high. So everything costs a little bit more. With the Fed increasing rates, everything's going to, take a little bit more when you're borrowing money. So there's going to be less money out there. So really what that means is people are hanging on to their money a little bit more. They're saving more during this time. And usually that does have to happen when we have, such a great economy over the past 2 years, a lot of buying, a lot of borrowing. Sometimes it does take a little bit of savings and a little bit of scaling back to get things kind of back to normal. And so we might see that, a lot of people are predicting we might see 2 quarters in a row of negative gross domestic product, but that's not always a bad thing, because usually housing is still very strong during recessionary periods. And also, that should lead to much better days. It might be a tough, year, but they are predicting that things can get back to normal maybe by next year. The Fed will start lowering the funds rate, mortgage rates will go down, inflation will go down, and things will be a lot better.
Yeah. And what's normal, right? If you look at the last 5 years, and it's funny because that word recession, you know what I mean? To the average person, to just most people,
it's scary.
It's scary. It's one step close to depression. And, they think about that, the stories that their parents, their grandparents told, they think about, oh my gosh, there's going to be blood in the streets. It's bad. And like you just said, it actually represents something that we've experienced recessions in the US economy, and most people don't even know that they're happening. Yes. If you didn't ask them or didn't watch the news, they would have known the difference. And I think that's exactly it. And I think a lot of people want to latch onto those fears, whether it's, kind of, validating their own predictions in a crash coming, making them feel better about maybe not buying and, whatever that is. But I think to what you said, it's not the case. And that's national level too. So one thing that I think a lot of people see this negative news and they forget that we're not national.
Right.
We are very much not national, and you got to really separate the fruits, because it's definitely not the same thing.
For sure. What we have realized, though, is we have a lot more listings on the market.
Yeah.
Nearly doubled in our inventory since last month. And honestly, people might hear that and think, oh, slam on the brakes, craziness is happening, but it's actually so much nicer.
Yeah. No, it's good for everyone.
It is good for everyone. And it's making it a little bit easier for those buyers that are still, pursuing their dream home or still pursuing a home. It's a little less competitive out there. On the other side of the coin, we are seeing less offers come in on our listings than what we were seeing. We're seeing less regular buyers is what I have noticed over the last couple of weeks. A little less families coming through, a little less, just individuals that are purchasing. And I'm still seeing a lot of the cash, big cash groups that are coming through. In fact, I have 2 listings right now that the majority of the offers we did get. So we were getting 20, 30, 40 offers per property. Now we're maybe getting 5 or 7. The unfortunate part for the sellers is it's, the less competition that we have, the less favorable the terms are. But I'm still seeing a lot of cash.
But you can't and to what you were saying, the terms are less favorable, but you can't set the baseline for favorable as sky high, the pinnacle, you know what I mean? And when people are waiving appraisals and waiving inspections and waiving all that, that is by far not normal.
Right.
So, and I think people have to really understand that, that's not what we want. From a seller's point, it sounds great, but it really, when you look at the whole picture, it's not. And I think buyers are going to get a sense, especially now that once we start to get feelings that there is light at the end of the tunnel from all this hell and damnation with rates raising and everything that's supposedly happening, we're going to see that next little boost. And I think the second we start seeing that rates are going to start trending down, people are going to be like, you know what, this whole refi thing in a couple of years is a lot more realistic. Maybe these adjustable rates are more appealing and they work for us right now. So I think that's the case. And I think there's going to be a lot of people shifting too. A big shift, more people from out of state that are going to be moving here. And, that's good. It's good stuff. I know most people are like, we don't want anyone, you see forums that are saying, stay in your state, don't move to Arizona. And being here for 20 years, I kind of feel what they're saying, but the fact is I'm not from here. So I kind of eat my own words saying that. So we got to be realistic. Do we want a healthy, growing, flourishing economy that's going to lead the country? Well, if we're going to want that, we're going to need some new people. You know what I mean? People moving in and bringing their ideas and bringing their businesses and bringing their families and, helping us grow.
From what I see, and we deal with we do a lot of business. We deal with a lot of people. A lot of people are moving out of Arizona. So we can't have all of these people exiting the building, and no replacement. So
yeah, no, for sure. I think you're exactly right. And once again, I think that's right. Hey, if you love Phoenix because it was a relaxed city over the last 20 years. It was teetered for the top 5 or 6 cities, but it felt like one of the, lower 20s because of the population and our affordability and all that stuff. You know what? Maybe it is time to move. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, don't beat yourself up over it and get mad because prices are ridiculous and traffic is ridiculous and all this stuff that you can't control because you can't control it. And, but I'll make a bet with most people that do that. They'll be gone for like 2 years and they're going to be like, what the hell did we do? And they'll be back.
You'll be back.
Well, that's happening just in our little, sample of the world and this sample of what's going on just within our business, within our clientele. That's happening. So in fact, right now I have 2 or 3 clients that are coming back that left last year or the year before. One of them doesn't even care. They're paying capital gains in the home that they purchased in another state. They don't even care. They're coming back to Phoenix.
Yeah.
Miss the sun, right?
Oh yeah. And when they're doing that in May, that they're desperate to get back.
Yeah.
And to back up what you said, Katie, inventory, we are seeing them increase, but they're still historically so low.
Yeah.
They're raising from some of the lowest that we've ever seen in Arizona. And when you look back at things, we're still at very historic lows. And as I kind of mentioned, even during recessionary periods, housing is still very hot, and the Valley is still a very, popular place to live. We have a lot of millennials. It's the biggest generation since the baby boomers. And these people are coming, 34, 35, 36 years old. That's when people buy their first home usually. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing a lot of these people who are buying, and that's going to increase demand along with all the jobs that are being created and people moving from out of state to Arizona. So, bottom line, I still think we're going to see a very healthy housing market. We might not see 20% growth in appreciation, which is just not sustainable,
Okay.
but we might go back to, what is healthy, which is 5 to 6%. So, I'm still not recommending people to sit on the fence and wait. Rates are high, sure, but you still want to get into a home now, see that 5 to 6% appreciation over the year. And when rates drop down next year, we could always refinance you into a lower 30-year fixed rate. So that's what a lot of people are doing. Rent is higher than we've ever seen.
Ever.
And it's still sometimes cheaper to purchase a home, lock in that payment, maybe get a lower payment next year. Mm-hmm. So, don't wait. I recommend people still buy and seeing this little uptick in inventory. That's a good thing. We're seeing more of our clients who maybe in the past 6 months who just got beat out constantly on their offers, cash buyers, and 20 offers on a home that they really like, finally start to get homes accepted, getting their offers accepted. So, that's what's keeping us busy right now is a lot of our buyers that have had no luck over the past 6 months are starting to get some luck, and we're seeing some positivity from that.
Yeah. It's nice. It's a little bit more relaxed out there, a little less battlefield. So, so that's a good thing. Yeah. And I think what people need to also remember is no matter if the market is hot or it's not, it's still a very cyclical cycle. Cycle. That's a little redundant, Katie. It's very cyclical. So in the spring and summer, we always see a little bit more inventory come onto the market. It tends to be our busy season. But why? Because there's more, there's more activity. There's more sellers that are putting their homes on the market. And so it's just a normal thing for us to see this uptick in inventory. And honestly, I'm glad to see it.
Well, and yeah, absolutely. But it's just like anything. If you if you have $5 and you all of a sudden drop to $1 and you say, oh my God, we went up to $2. Yeah, that's 100% up from $1, but it's still $2. It's not the $5. And so I think most people are shocked from it, but no, it's still really low, but it's healthy low. And it's definitely giving buyers an opportunity. And it's also, I think, really good for sellers. Because I think sellers were ultimately too becoming almost a little neurotic to the point of do we sell now? My house has gone up double, in
the last day.
How do we do this? How, what I mean? And all this. So I think it's going to really allow them to kind of, all right, let's really think about what we're doing here and how we're going to approach this. And on the flip side, if they're going to be trying to buy a home and move into something else, they know it's going to be a lot more manageable,
a lot easier,
especially with a contingent offer. We're seeing contingent offers getting accepted now, which is huge. That's a great opportunity for someone that is trying to, move up or even move down, and get rid of their house and find something else that makes sense. So
that's giant to say, because working with a lot of sellers, these last, several months it's really been a mental health impact, I have to tell you, on these sellers, because they're having that anxiety. Do we sell now? Do we sell later? Because they were getting 20, 30, 40 offers that just kept coming in the door. And so it's kind of drives you crazy. You get really overwhelmed at one point and you think, well, when do I stop? But then do I want to stop because is something going to come in that's going to be more favorable for me?
Yep.
And then on the other side of the coin, where the hell am I going to live? So I feel like mental health is a little bit better out there right now.
That's great.
Yeah. But I think the big thing to really kind of to focus on too is how it's going to affect rents. And I think that's going to be the catalyst. And I think that's, for people to kind of we'll say digest these new prices, this new price point better, because, these people that are getting off the fence, they start to quickly look at the rental market and they go, oh my God, this isn't slowing at all. If anything, it's going to be the opposite, because we still have a lack of inventory in the rental, and it's only going to be even more because now people are deciding to make that choice to say, I'm going to pump the brakes. Well, it's going to cost you to pump those brakes. So I think that'll be really interesting. But I think once we kind of settle, people are going to realize that, and come the summer and the second rates hit, they're going to be like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And it might be that 6 month or 12-month lease cycle that we really see this happen,
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'd say the majority of the clients that we're working with that are looking to buy right now, have their 12-month lease that's coming up, and they're being notified how much their rent is increasing on the home. Yeah, and they're sick of it. They don't want to be holden to these rents increasing. They want to lock in a purchase price. They want to lock in a payment, and they don't want to see these increases anymore. So I agree with you, Matt. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a lot for them to deal with also, because, we're seeing renters are moving a lot more. So they're not staying in their properties because of the increases that are happening. So they're like, okay, grass is greener somewhere else. But then these poor renters are forking out money every time they turn around to move and to get utilities turned on and all of this kind of stuff. And I feel like that doesn't get factored in oftentimes when I speak with renters, and they're like, oh yeah, and I tell them, wouldn't you feel more comfortable if you were more in control and you didn't have to move, and you knew that your payment was going to be set the same forever? Well, and I feel like they don't consider a lot of those expenses that are wrapped up in that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in like what you were saying, Ryan, like millennials, you really look at that big shift in what COVID did. And, they were a driving force. So they quickly realized, like, what are we doing? We're getting to that age that, maybe this lock and leave lifestyle, it made sense before we had families, before we had responsibilities, before we started having to really think about retirement. And I think that's really popped up in a lot of people's minds in the last 3 years. So now you have this, the later end of the millennials that are dealing with this. All right, we've now seen rent increase twice. I'm engaged, or I'm ready to really settle down. And they're like, we got to do something. Yeah. And they're going to be entering the market. And then now fast forward 2 years, we're going to be all those millennials that jumped in 2 years ago, right when COVID was starting. And they're going to be like, listen, we need a bigger home. We jumped in because we had this whole rate thing that was, rent and thing that was affecting us. What a home is versus a sanctuary, or whatever we called it. I forgot the term when you had to stay home.
Shelter in place.
Our shelter. They're going to be looking to grow. So it's going to be a whole another cycle. They have tons of equity. They're responsible. So as much shit that was talked about millennials by the baby boomers 8 years ago, 10 years ago, they're going to be heavily reliant when it comes to their social security and everything else for us millennials. I'm like a hybrid millennial. So
you're an actual millennial.
I'm like 81, but it like tiers, because like 80 is like the lost gen between Gen X and millennials. So
you're the lost year.
Yeah. So
Ryan and I are not millennials.
No, you guys are Gen Xers.
We just missed the cut. Yeah.
Exactly. Just missed it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, this was awesome and super informative. And I love it when we just go unscripted, which this show always is. Yeah. So thank you guys so much for all of your awesome input and your perspective. If you out there are interested in being a guest on the show, please follow us at Team EvoAZ. That's our handle, at Team EvoAZ on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. While you're there, give us a like, shoot us a message. Let us know why you'd like to be on the show. And right now, while you're listening to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform, do us another favor and subscribe, download, and rate us so that we can get this real information out to the real people who need it. All right, guys. Thanks again.
Bye, Ryan. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.